Hello everyone, this is Panmohan. I'm the General Manager of Poco in India. Today I'm extremely excited to be here to be talking about our newest product. It's quite special, but before we move ahead, let's take a quick look at what Poco really stands for. Poco stands for three things. Technology that truly matters. We always focus on things which will make a difference to your product. Number two, how we reach there is by democratizing decision making. We make use of the feedback that all the Poco fans provide to us, and hence making every Poco fan a product manager. And lastly, we are always evolving, because of which we are continuously upgrading our products and our products are up to date. What validates this belief is the feedback we get from our users and the market overall. For instance, Poco is now the #1 smartphone brand on Flipkart in the segment 15,000 and above. Besides the love from our Poco fans, we attribute our success at Poco to our relentless focus on the quality of our products. Needless to say, from the very early days at Poco, we have had a very strong focus on the India market. From customizing models for India to launching India-only models, we remain dedicated to our community here. At Poco, we do few things, but do them extremely well and perfect. If you think about it, what you get from other brands is that if the performance is right, the camera might not be right. If the camera is right, maybe the pricing is not right. But at Poco, we want to ensure we hit the bullseye every time. In other words, we believe in the philosophy, everything you need, nothing you don't. So here we are today, and I'm extremely excited to be talking about the product, what you all have been waiting for, the Poco X3. To talk about Poco X3, let's begin with the performance section. Poco X2 was already a very special product. Now for Poco X3, we had to do something more special. Now to think about it, the first thing we attacked was the processor. Long story short, we were able to turn around a new chipset in partnership with Qualcomm on this. So we are happy to announce that Poco X3 will be the first product in the world being powered by this chipset, Snapdragon 732G. So to talk about Snapdragon 732G, let's hear from the Qualcomm India head, Mr. Rajan, about this chipset.
Thank you, Manmohan. Glad to be addressing the Poco family and fans today at the launch of Poco X3, the first phone to be launched on our latest Snapdragon 732G. As always, we have kept the gaming community in mind when we design a processor, this time Snapdragon 732G. At a high level, there are improvements which we have done to the CPU, the GPU and the AI, in turn which are leveraged further by the Poco design team to give further enhancement to the product, promising to give you a great gaming experience. You will see that when you get to try to use the Poco X3. Thank you again, wishing you all the best. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thanks a lot, Rajan, for that. Now that was a bit about Snapdragon 732G. Now to move ahead, let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Snapdragon 732G chipset on the Poco X3 comfortably beats the other chipsets in this price segment, let it be Snapdragon 720G or for that matter, even the Snapdragon 730G. Poco X3 clocks a good 3 lakh points on the Antutu benchmarking. The Snapdragon 732G chipset comes with 8 Cryo 470 cores. Of this, 2 gold cores are clocked at a massive 2.3 GHz and the 6 silver cores are clocked at 1.8 GHz. Living up to Poco standards, the Poco X3 will be a gamer's delight. Poco X3 will be powered by the Adreno 618 GPU, which is 15% more faster than the previous generation. It will also have a lot of Qualcomm Elite gaming features for all the gamers out there. With the 732G chipset, the AI performance goes up significantly and it can now perform 3.6 trillion operations a second. How this translates into real-life usage is now, with this chipset, it has faster photo processing and enhanced DSP among others. In all, the Snapdragon 732G chipset is an upgrade on all fronts: CPU, GPU and AI benchmarks. In fact, there is no competition at all when putting it against SD720G and SD730G. This chipset beats all of these chipsets fair and square on CPU, GPU and AI Antutu benchmarks. So folks, Snapdragon 732G chipset is more than a simple incremental upgrade. It is much more than that. And that's what makes Poco X3 a true king for its segment and takes the mantle from Poco X2. At Poco, we use the best components to give you the max performance. Poco X3 comes with UFS 2.1 storage, up to 8 GB of LPDDR4X RAM, and expandable storage of up to 512 GB. And now to the liquid cooled technology. We started with this feature back in 2018 with the Poco F1, and we have refined it manifold. And today we are glad to announce the liquid cooled technology plus, which features in Poco X3. Compared to the previous generation, this liquid cooled technology has a 70% larger heat pipe. Along with that, multiple layers of graphite layers. With this, your phone will run 6 degrees cooler than the previous generation. Now to summarize the performance section on Poco X3, Poco X3 has the latest and the powerful Snapdragon 732G chipset. It also has up to 8 GB of LPDDR4X RAM, and it features the latest liquid cooled technology plus. Moving on to the display section. Something that has set Poco apart from the rest is the display. We realized that in Poco X2, and we are now featuring that in Poco X3. Poco X3 comes with a large 6.67-inch cinematic display with a Full HD Plus resolution. Now to my favorite part on the display, Poco X3 has the 120Hz panel powered by the Reality Flow engine. Now, I know that I don't stress this a lot, but those of you who have experienced on Poco X2 know that it's a big deal. Now, a lot of Poco X2 users have already taken a lot of advantage over this 120Hz display. Now, let's take a quick look at this video, what this really means. Since X2, we have made further advancements on the display. One of the instances is that we have optimized the battery even further. Now, how did we do that? The answer to that is something what we call the DynamicSwitch. To explain what the DynamicSwitch does, Poco X3 reduces the refresh rate when it is not needed. Now imagine this, you're probably viewing an image on the gallery. At that point in time, why do you need your phone to refresh 120 times a second? Rather, reduce the refresh rate and save a lot of battery life. So DynamicSwitch helps conserve battery life by adjusting to the user patterns to ensure a longer battery. After the refresh rate on the display, now let's talk about the touch sampling rate. Touch sampling rate defines how your phone registers your touch inputs. Poco X3 comes with a massive 240Hz touch sampling rate. What this means that Poco X3 as a device registers the touch 240 times a second. What this implies is that Poco X3 has a touch sampling rate 33% more superior and better than other flagships around. To understand this better, let's take a quick look at this video. Now, not just that, with the feedback that we have received from all of you, Poco X3 also has HDR10 and Wide 1L1 certification out of the box. To sum it up, Poco X3 has the best display in its segment. Poco X3 has a large 6.67-inch cinematic Full HD Plus resolution display. Along with that, it has a 240Hz touch sampling rate, and my favorite, the 120Hz display, which makes it smooth and fast. Now let's move on to the gaming section on Poco X3. But to talk about gaming, let's all welcome the newest member to the Poco family, Mr. Anuj Sharma, Country Director, Poco India. Anuj, over to you.
Thanks, Mancho. Now, with a gorgeous 120Hz Reality Flow display and the best-in-class Snapdragon 732G processor, of course, you're going to get an amazing experience, whether it's media consumption or gaming. But being a bit of a gamer myself, what I'm really interested in is those really long gaming sessions, or how we want to call it in Poco, prolonged gaming. And this is where the X3 starts to really shine. In fact, what we've done for the very first time with Poco, you are getting a 6000 mAh battery. It's humongous and it goes perfectly with the hardware that Manchu just spoke about. Now with a mammoth 6000 mAh battery on the Poco X3, you can in fact game for 14 hours straight. I wouldn't really recommend that. Do take breaks, hydrate, but if you need to, it has that battery power. Not just for gamers, if you want to go in for binge watching a lot of media, well, this battery has you covered for 31 hours straight. Now that's amazing battery backup on the Poco X3. We are talking serious battery power in this case. That means on a single charge, the Poco X3 is going to be good for 2+ days. But when you need to recharge, we've got you covered there as well. The Poco X3, like our other devices, obviously comes with fast charging capabilities. In fact, you are getting a 33-watt charger in the box with every Poco X3. However, if you think you know about this 33-watt charging, let me correct you on that one. This one actually is 26% faster versus other 33-watt chargers. And how does that happen? Well, we are using an all-new technology on the Poco X3. We are calling it MMT, or middle tab. It basically helps you charge the overall battery a lot faster than traditional charging methods. Now with the Poco X3, you're looking at a formidable gaming phone. Not just the Reality 120Hz display or an all-new powerful Snapdragon 732G processor, it's even got a bigger battery, a 6000 mAh battery that charges faster, up to 26% faster than regular 33-watt charging. And to top it off, of course, you have liquid cooling. As all gamers will tell you, it's not just about the visuals, it's not just about great performance, but one important thing in today's games is also sound. Well, happy to share, on the Poco X3, we are introducing dual stereo speakers. You are absolutely going to love the whole directional element that gets added to your gaming. But not just for gamers, even if you are an avid media consumer, you're going to really love these speakers. Adding on to the sound bit, you also have support for high-res audio, and for those people who like to listen to media or music wirelessly, we are adding support for aptX HD on the Poco X3. So in a nutshell, with the Poco X3, you're getting great battery, you're getting great sound, amazing display, and the best-in-class performance. However, one more thing that really matters if you are gaming online is connectivity. And for that, we have added a 2x2 MIMO support to Poco X3. So wherever you might be at home, you always have the signal strength and optimal pings to get the best gaming experience. The Poco X3 has some incredible gaming hardware. You've got an amazing processor, you've got amazing display, you saw a massive battery coming in that charges faster, dual stereo speakers, but let's not forget about the software part. Well, with the X3, you're getting Game Turbo 3.0. X3, Game Turbo 3. Get it? Now this Game Turbo makes a huge difference in your gameplay. Not only do you get a smoother gameplay, but your sound and network both are optimized, giving you the best experience yet. Now that brings me to the next part, and a part that all of you guys loved on the Poco X2, the cameras. Now the cameras in the X3 were a bit of a challenge to place, right? So what you've seen is better, bigger hardware, a bigger battery, and that normally means you have to change the internals quite a bit. And we tried a lot of things, but frankly, this is the best camera setup that we've been able to manage. As you can see, this looks absolutely unique. When you see a Poco X3 out there, you are not going to mistake it for any other phone, and that makes it even more unique. What we have is a 4-camera setup led by the Sony IMX682 64MP sensor. Along with the main sensor, you also get a 13 megapixel 119 degree ultra wide lens. Now this takes stunning pictures, as we will see later, but to complete the entire array, you also get a depth camera and a macro camera. Now that 64MP camera combined with Poco's image optimizations gives you stunning results. Results like this one. Now just take a look at this particular image. This is a really challenging image to capture for most smartphone cameras. The light actually has gone behind the buildings, and even with that, you can see the entire dynamic range of the sky being kept as is. What I absolutely love is the reflection that you see in the water. But while all of that beauty is being captured, just take a look at the greenery in the middle of the frame. The details are intact. In fact, the different shades of green have also been retained, which is normally very difficult. And if you move your eyes to the buildings, you can literally count every window, and that talks a lot about the sharpness and the clarity of the image too. Moving on to the next lens, which is the 13 megapixel 119 degrees field of view ultra wide lens. Now this one also takes stunning shots. Of course, it is on a Poco, it has to. But take a look at this particular image. Now this image is really interesting, right? This is an indoor shot, but with that and ultra wide coming in, there are a couple of challenges that most cameras would face, but not the Poco X3. The first thing I want to talk about is the dynamic lighting here. Of course, there's harsh lighting coming in from the sky roof, but while maintaining all of those details, you can even see the clouds in the sky through the roof, and that is remarkable. But the other aspect that most cameras falter on when it comes to ultra wide angles is distortion around the edges. This is one of the reasons why we picked this particular image, because you can see the entire distortion management around the edges has been done perfectly, and this is what you expect out of an ultra wide lens. And now moving on to the macro cameras, and here I'd like to kind of show you one of my favorite images. Now this image, as you can see, is of a mechanical assembly, but what I absolutely love, apart from the fact that it's captured all the details, is it's also retained the surface texture of the metal all around, and that plays in beautifully with this light. And of course, that's a testament on what that camera is capable of capturing every time you're taking macro images. And the last lens, which is the depth camera, gives you brilliant portrait shots. Shots like this one, where you can clearly see the subject being separate from the background. And what's also really notable is the varying depth of field, and obviously when you're taking a portraiture, the subject is most important, and as you can see in this case, the sharpness of the subject is on point. Even the edge detection around the hair, which obviously a lot of phones falter on, is completely in focus. We are also adding some really fun software features. Now there are quite a few for you to explore, but I want to touch on 3 really cool ones. So here's the first one that I want to talk about. Now take a look at this particular image. It's a night shot, and of course indirectly we are also telling you that the Poco X3 takes great nighttime shots, but that's not the point here. We've got an all-new gold vibes mode. When you put that on, your entire image changes. Obviously it's giving you this amazing luxurious kind of a feel to the image that you had already captured. And it's not just for the night shots. Of course this one looks gorgeous, but even daylight shots. Now this one is a great shot. Again, a great example of the dynamic capture that the X3 is capable of. But let's go back to the gold's vibe mode. And this again makes the same scene look entirely different. Now that's one. The second one that I want to talk about is perhaps my favorite or second favorite. Now this is something that I guess all the gamers would identify with. It's called Cyberpunk. Well, with the Cyberpunk mode, you get this amazing futuristic fused lighting, giving you a very, very different experience from the camera itself. And the third one that I want to talk about is AI Skyscaping 3.0. Now, of course, X3, Game Turbo 3.0, Skyscaping 3.0. You're seeing a pattern here, right? Anyways, now this one is super important. And thanks to the enhanced DSP and AI capabilities of the 732G, we are able to do some really cool magic. Now take a look at this particular image. Of course, we do not have northern lights in Bangalore, but with AI Skyscaping 3.0, you can. As long as you are able to see the sky, the camera is automatically able to detect where the sky is, where the building is, where the horizon is, and not just change the sky, but change the entire lighting of the landscape based on the sky filter that you've chosen. It looks absolutely stunning, and in fact, for those people who might not have the X3, you can tell them that you were actually in Norway when you shot that image. And that brings me to the fifth camera of the setup. Of course, I'm talking about the in-screen selfie camera up front. Now this is a 20 megapixel camera, and it gives you brilliant photographs that you expect from the Poco X3. Take a look at this one. Now this one is not just a regular selfie, but a portrait selfie taken from that 20 megapixel camera. Again, the edge detection as well as the depth of field is exactly what you need when you're taking a portrait shot, and all of this is coming in from the front camera. So overall, in the Poco X3, you've got a complete powerhouse when it comes to cameras as well. You've got a quad camera setup led by Sony IMX 682's 64 MP camera. Along with that, you have a 119 degrees field of view, 13 megapixel ultra wide, and we saw how good it is at managing edge detection. We have a macro camera and of course a depth sensor. In the front, you've got a 20 megapixel in-screen selfie camera, and not to forget those amazing software modes. You've got the Gold Vibes mode, you've got Cyberpunk, and you've got AI Skyscaping 3.0. All of this takes your camera experience to the next level. Now coming to how the Poco X3 will look. Now when we were designing the X3, we went back to the drawing board and we've come up with an all-new design philosophy. Like I said, starting with the camera setup, you cannot mistake the X3 for any other device on the market. Well, we've taken it one step further. Now what you're getting with the X3 is this all-new Go Faster design. This amazing strip and a holographic logo makes it really shine. Not only is it a good-looking device, but it also does not sacrifice any ergonomics when you think of it. It has got an amazing curved back that seamlessly blends in with the frame, giving you amazing in-hand feel. When you hold the device, you will also realize that the engineers have put in a lot of effort in balancing the entire weight. Now, why is that important? Most people will not realize this, but when you're gaming or when you're doing prolonged gaming sessions, you would really see the benefit of a well-balanced ergonomic device. So on the right side in the metal frame, you find a power key, which also doubles up as a super fast fingerprint reader. And because of the placement, it's ergonomically viable whether you are left-handed or right-handed to use this. Right up top, you've got the IR blaster, which a lot of you love. At the bottom, we've retained the headphone jack, which I'm sure a whole lot of gamers would appreciate. Now the Poco X3, as you saw, looks amazing and comes in two stunning colors. You've got the shadow grey and the cobalt blue. Both of them, in my opinion, look stunning. You can't go wrong with either. And that sums up the absolutely gorgeous looking Poco X3. But you know what? For Poco, it's also the beauty that's inside that matters. And to talk about that, back to you, Mancho.
Poco X3 indeed has a beautiful design. Thanks a lot, Anuj, for sharing that. At Poco, we have relentless focus on quality, which thereby makes Poco the #1 quality smartphone brand in the country. We want all our Poco fans to enjoy the Poco devices for a very long time. And hence, for the very first time in Poco, we are bringing to you the IP53 rating on Poco X3. In addition, the 120Hz display also comes with the protection of Corning Gorilla Glass 5. If that was not enough, we are also adding a case to ensure your phone is protected at all times. Quality doesn't just end at hardware. At Poco, we give a lot of importance on software as well. If you see, on all the Poco devices, we give something called the Poco Clean Experience. Very fluid and most importantly, no ads. Poco X3 is a complete package. It comes with a fast and superior Snapdragon 732G chipset, a 120Hz display, a massive 6000 mAh battery, 33-watt charger in the box, 64-megapixel AI quad camera. What more do you need? I'll tell you what more you need, the pricing. Now before we move on to the pricing, let's take a quick look at the comparison. Now let's compare Poco X3 vis-a-vis Realme 7 Pro. Poco X3 has a larger display, a massive 6000 mAh battery, a 120Hz panel, and the world's first Snapdragon 732G chipset, which is far superior than Snapdragon 720G. The Realme 7 Pro is priced at 19,999 for the 6128 variant. So what should Poco X3 be priced for? The Poco X3 comes in 3 variants: the 6GB RAM, 64GB storage, 6GB RAM, 128GB storage, and 8GB RAM, 128GB storage. Now to the availability, Poco X3 will start retailing on 29 September at 12 noon on our partner platform Flipkart. So that is Poco X3, guys. We would now like to take the opportunity to thank all our streaming partners and all the Poco fans who have joined us through this live stream. See you soon.
ओके जनता, क्या बोलती जनता? जनता सुन सकती हो मेरे को, तो मेरे को जवाब दो। ओ जनता यहाँ पे हो गया है गजब का, मतलब गजब ही चीज़ हो गई है। तुम मेरे को देख नहीं सकते पर सुन तो सकते हो। बट एक चीज़ कहना चाहूँगा, 17,000 रुपये के ऊपर ये फ़ोन आया है और मैंने भी यही सोचा था अगर ये 17,000 के ऊपर अगर आता है तो आई थिंक ये फ़ोन सही रहेगा। पोको X2 से कम लाना पड़ेगा या फिर पोको X2 के बराबर लाना पड़ेगा तभी ये फ़ोन बिकेगा, क्योंकि अपने अपने एडवांटेज हैं, डिसएडवांटेज हैं। तो यहाँ पे मज़ा आ गया देख के कि यहाँ पे पोको X2 का जो प्राइस है वो 17,000 है। आई थिंक हाँ, अब ये फ़ोन अगर आप लेना चाहो, अगर आप, मैं, चलो आप मेरे को कमेंट में ज़रूर बताना। मेरे को कैसे बताओगे यार, पोको X3 की वीडियो लानी चाहिए या फिर नहीं चाहिए? थोड़ा सा बट चलो देखते हैं क्या होता है। अभी के लिए इनका इवेंट हो चुका है ख़त्म, सो मैं लाइव ख़त्म करता हूँ। एंड होप यू एंजॉयड द लाइव सेशन। एंड मैं आपको मिलता हूँ, ठीक है? बाय बाय एंड टेक केयर।